The cargo scanner beeped 3 times, then went silent. Ben Carter pulled his head out from under the freight loader and wiped grease off his hands. Something was wrong with the docking bay sensors again. They had been acting strange all morning, picking up phantom signals that disappeared before anyone could identify them. He walked across the maintenance floor of Station Harmony, his boots clicking against the metal grating. Through the observation window, he could see the usual traffic of ships coming and going. Traders, merchants, travelers. The station sat at the edge of known space, a place where different species met to do business and exchange goods. Ben had worked here for 3 years, fixing broken equipment and loading cargo. It was simple work, but it paid enough to send money back to his family on Earth. The scanner beeped again. This time it stayed on. Ben checked the display. A ship was approaching, but it was moving slowly. Too slowly. The transponder signal was weak, barely registering. He tapped the screen and pulled up the visual feed. A battered freighter limped toward the station, trailing debris and atmosphere vapor. The hull showed scorch marks and what looked like weapons damage. "Control, this is Bay 7. Ben spoke into his comm unit. "I'm seeing an incoming ship that looks pretty beat up. You want me to clear a spot?" The response came from Administrator Lang, a Fenric who ran the station operations. His voice carried the usual clipped efficiency of his species. "Negative on docking clearance. We've received their species identification. It's a dragon family vessel." Ben Fronet. "Dragons? I thought they were mostly gone." "They are, and they're staying that way. Denied entry. Send them the rejection code." The comm clicked off. Ben stared at the screen. The ship was close enough now that he could see details. Patches cover holes in the hull. The engine exhaust flickered unevenly. This ship wouldn't make it much farther. He switched to the public docking channel. "Station Harmony to approaching vessel. What's your status?" A long pause followed. Then a voice came through, deep and tired. It carried a quality that made Ben think of old mountains and deep caverns. "This is the vessel Crimson Wing. We request emergency docking. Our family needs medical attention and supplies. We can pay. Stand by," Ben said. He switched back to the control channel. "Lang, they've got injured on board. They're asking for emergency assistance." "Denied. Dragons are classified as extreme risk. We don't have the insurance coverage. They're going to die out there. That's not our problem, Carter. Send the rejection and get back to work." Ben looked at the screen again. The ship had stopped moving forward. It just hung there in space, waiting. He zoomed in on the viewports. Faces appeared in the windows. Large faces with scales that caught the light from the nearby star. One of them was small, pressed against the glass. A child. Around the docking bay, other workers had gathered. Word spread fast on a station. Ben saw humans, Fenrics, Trells, Cordons, even a few silicate beings. They all stood at a distance, watching the dragon's ship. None of them moved to help. Several shook their heads or made gestures that clearly meant the dragon should leave. Ben had heard the stories. Dragons were ancient beings created as living weapons by a race that died out thousands of years ago. They could breathe fire, tear through metal with their claws, and survive in the vacuum of space for short periods. Wars had been fought against them. Planets had burned. That was all history now, centuries old, but fear had a long memory. The small dragon face in the viewport moved away, replaced by the larger one. The adult dragon. Ben could see exhaustion in those eyes. Even from this distance, he made a decision. Ben walked to the manual override panel, the one used when the automated systems failed. His supervisor would be furious. Lang would probably fire him. But he had seen that look before, in the eyes of refugees who came to Earth's borders when the climate wars made half the planet uninhabitable. His grandmother had been one of those refugees. She used to tell him that when someone needs help, you don't calculate the risk. You just help. He entered his override code and pressed the button. The docking bay doors began to open. Alarms went off immediately. Lang's voice burst through the speakers. "Carter, what are you doing? Shut that down right now." Ben ignored him. He kept his hand on the controls, guiding the damaged freighter into the bay. The ship moved slowly, carefully, as if the pilot was afraid the invitation might be withdrawn. It settled onto the landing pad with a grinding sound that suggested the landing gear was barely functional. The other workers backed away from the bay. Some left entirely. A few stayed to watch, but they kept their distance. Ben stood alone near the entrance ramp of the dragon's ship. The ramp lowered with a hiss of hydraulics. 5 dragons emerged. 2 adults and 3 younglings. The adults were massive, easily 4 times Ben's height, with scales that shimmered in shades of deep red and bronze. Their wings were folded against their backs, tattered and torn in places. The younglings stayed close to the adults, their eyes wide and frightened. The larger adult dragon, a female, stepped forward. She moved with obvious pain, favoring her left side. When she spoke, her voice filled the entire bay. "I am sorry. This is my family. We mean no harm. We only need supplies and rest." Ben swallowed hard. Standing this close to a dragon made his instincts scream at him to run. Every human story about dragons emphasized their danger. But he looked at the younglings. They were shaking. The smallest one had a wing that hung at an odd angle, clearly broken. "I'm Ben," he said. His voice sounded small compared to hers. "Welcome to Station Harmony. I have a cargo section you can use. It's not much, but it's private and climate-controlled." Sari stared at him. The other adult dragon, the male, swayed slightly and had to steady himself against the ship. The younglings pressed closer to their parents. "Why are you helping us?" Sari's asked. "Your kind usually runs from mine." Ben thought about his grandmother again, about the family that had taken her in when no one else would. "Because you need help," he said simply. And that's enough reason. Behind him, he heard footsteps. Security was coming. Other voices rose in protest. Someone shouted that he was insane. Lang would be here soon, probably with legal documents and threats, but Ben didn't move. He stood between the dragon family and the growing crowd of angry station residents. One human, facing down the fear and hostility of dozens of species. "Follow me," he said to the dragons. "Let's get you settled before this gets complicated." Saris looked at him for a long moment. Then she nodded. "We will follow, Ben Carter, and we will remember this kindness." The dragon family walked slowly into the station, and Ben led the way. Water dripped somewhere in the cargo section. Ben had cleared out 3 storage units and connected them together to make enough space for the dragon family. It wasn't perfect, but at least it was warm and dry. Sort of dry. The leak would have to wait. He carried 2 containers of medical gel and a case of protein rations. The station supply manager had refused to sell him anything for dragons, so Ben used his own credits and claimed the supplies were for himself. It was technically theft by proxy, but he would deal with the consequences later. The smallest dragon, the one with the broken wing, sat near the entrance to the cargo area. She watched Ben with curious eyes that seemed too large for her face. When he got close, she backed away quickly. "It's okay," Ben said softly. He set down the supplies and stepped back. "I'm just bringing food and medicine. Your wing looks like it hurts." The young dragon didn't respond. She kept staring at him like he might suddenly become dangerous. Saris emerged from the deeper part of the cargo section. She moved more slowly than before, and Ben noticed fresh blood seeping through her scales on her left side. Dragons could heal fast, he had heard, but only if they had enough energy and food. "Her name is Pip," Sari said. "She does not speak much. Not since the hunters attacked our home world." Ben pushed the medical gel toward them. "This should help with infections. I don't know if it works on dragons, but it's broad spectrum. Good for most species. You brought supplies with your own money." It wasn't a question. Sari seemed to simply know. "Yeah, well, the station wasn't being helpful." Ben rubbed the back of his neck. "How's your mate? He looked pretty bad when you landed." Sari's expression darkened. "Vorin is resting. He has a wound that will not close. We were attacked 6 days ago by bounty hunters. They used poison weapons." "Poison?" Ben felt his stomach drop. "Does he need a doctor? I know someone who might help." "No doctors." The response was firm. "We have learned not to trust other species with our vulnerability." Ben understood that. He had seen how the other station residents looked at the dragons, like they were monsters waiting to strike, like they didn't deserve basic kindness. "Okay," he said, "but if he gets worse, please tell me. Dying from pride is still dying." Sari studied him for a long moment. "Why do you care, human?" Your species has no connection to mine. We offer you nothing in return for this help. Ben sat down on a cargo crate. Pip watched him closely, but didn't move away this time. My grandmother used to tell me a story. Back on Earth, during the climate wars, millions of people had to leave their homes. The water dried up, the heat made farming impossible. Most countries closed their borders. They said they didn't have room, didn't have resources. But one small country opened up. They had even less than the others, but they shared what they had. What happened to the refugees? Saris asked. Some survived. My grandmother was one of them. She always said that the measure of people isn't what they do when it's easy. It's what they do when it's hard. Ben looked at Pip. You're refugees. Someone has to open the door. Saris lowered her head, a gesture Ben would later learn meant deep respect among dragons. Your grandmother was wise. A sound came from deeper in the cargo section. A groan of pain. Saris tensed immediately. That's Vorin, she said. Excuse me. She disappeared into the shadows. Ben heard low voices, the rumble of the dragon language. It sounded like rocks grinding together, but there was a rhythm to it, almost musical. Pip crept closer to Ben. She sniffed at the protein rations, then looked at him as if asking permission. Go ahead, Ben said. They're for all of you. The young dragon grabbed a ration pack with her small claws and tore it open. She ate quickly, desperately. When she finished, she looked at Ben again. This time, she spoke. Her voice was high and soft compared to her mother's. Thank you. Those two words hit Ben harder than he expected. This child had probably seen terrible things. Her home destroyed, her family hunted, turned away from every safe harbor. And still she remembered to say thank you. You're welcome, Pip. Two more young dragons emerged from the shadows. They were larger than Pip, but still clearly younglings. One had dark green scales, the other a lighter blue-gray. They moved cautiously, keeping Pip between them and Ben. That's Cray, Pip whispered, pointing to the green one. And that's Foon. They're my brothers. Nice to meet you, Ben said. Cray made a sound that might have been a growl. Foon just stared with unblinking eyes. Cray doesn't like humans, Pip explained. He says you all smell like fear and lies. Ben couldn't help but smile. Well, he's not completely wrong. A lot of humans are scared dragons. But fear doesn't have to mean hate. What does it mean then? Pip asked. It means we don't understand each other yet. Understanding takes time. Saris returned, and her expression told Ben everything he needed to know. Vorin was getting worse. I need to check his wound, she said quietly. Do you know anything about treating poison? Ben thought fast. He wasn't a doctor, but he had taken basic medical training when he joined the station crew. I know some things. Let me see him. Saris hesitated. Dragons were private about their pain, about their weakness. Letting a human see Vorin in this state went against every instinct. But desperation made strange choices necessary. Follow me, she said finally. Ben followed her into the deeper cargo section. Vorin lay on his side, his breathing labored. The wound on his shoulder was dark, almost black around the edges. The poison was spreading. How long has it been like this? Ben asked. 2 days. It grows worse each day. Ben examined the wound carefully. He had seen infected injuries before, but this was different. The poison was designed specifically to hurt dragons, probably to slow them down so hunters could capture them. I need to get help, Ben said. I know a doctor, Rita Okonkwo. She's human, and she's good. Really good. No. Vorin's voice was weak but firm. No outsiders. You're dying, Ben said bluntly. Rita can help, or you can die from stubbornness. Your choice. Vorin and Saris exchanged a look. Some silent communication passed between them. If she betrays us, Vorin said slowly, if she brings hunters or authorities, we will have no choice but to defend ourselves. She won't, Ben promised. I trust her. You're going to have to trust me. Saris closed her eyes. Then bring your doctor. But know this, Ben Carter. If you're wrong about her, my family will not survive. And I will make sure the last thing I do is ensure you understand that weight. It wasn't a threat exactly, just a statement of fact. Ben nodded. I'll be back within an hour, he said. Keep him comfortable. As Ben left the cargo section, His hands were shaking. He had just promised to bring help, but he had no idea if Rita would actually come. Helping a human fix cargo loaders was one thing. Treating dragons was something else entirely. But he had to try. Behind him, he heard Pip's small voice asking her mother if the human would really come back. "I think he will," Saris answered. "I think this one is different." Ben hoped she was right. Rita Okonkwo's medical office smelled like antiseptic and recycled air. Ben burst through the door, startling a Trell patient who was waiting for an appointment. Rita looked up from her desk, her dark eyes immediately showing concern. "Ben, what's wrong? I need your help. Private. Now." Rita dismissed her patient with an apologetic gesture and led Ben into the back examination room. As soon as the door closed, Ben started talking. "The dragon family that docked this morning, the male is dying. Poison weapon. The wound is infected and spreading. I need you to come look at him." Rita's expression went from concerned to shocked to something like fear. "Ben, I can't treat a dragon. I don't know their biology. I don't have the right equipment. You're the best doctor on this station. For humans and humanoid species, yes. Dragons are completely different. Their internal systems, their blood chemistry, I could make things worse." Ben grabbed her hands. "Rita, please. If you don't help, he dies. His family watches him die. 3 kids lose their father." Rita pulled away and paced the small room. "Do you know what you're asking? If something goes wrong, if I hurt him, dragons don't exactly forgive mistakes. And the station authorities will crucify me for treating them without proper authorization." "I know," Ben said quietly. "I'm asking anyway." Rita stopped pacing. She looked at Ben, really looked at him. They had known each other for 2 years. She trusted him, and he knew it. That trust was the only reason she was even considering this. "Tell me about the wound," she said finally. Ben described everything he had seen. The black discoloration, the smell, Voron's labored breathing. Rita listened, occasionally asking questions. When he finished, she was quiet for a long moment. "It sounds like necrotizing poison, designed to kill tissue and spread through the bloodstream. For a human, I would cut away the dead tissue and flood the area with antibiotics. But for a dragon," she shook her head, "I'll need his family's help. They know their biology better than any medical database. They'll help. They're desperate." Rita grabbed her medical bag and started filling it with supplies. "I'm going to regret this, aren't I?" "Probably," Ben admitted. "But you'll regret it more if you don't try." They made their way through the station corridors quickly. News of the dragon family had spread, and people stared as they passed. Some made disgusted sounds. A few shouted insults. One human merchant actually spit on the ground when he saw them heading toward the cargo section. "Popular decision," Rita muttered. "Yeah, well, popularity is overrated." When they reached the cargo area, Ben called out before entering. "Saris, it's Ben. I brought the doctor." Saris appeared, blocking the entrance with her body. She looked at Rita with suspicion. "A human doctor, the best one on the station," Ben said. "Rita Okonkwo, this is Saris." Rita managed a professional nod despite the fact that she was facing a being who could easily kill her. "I'll do everything I can to help your mate, but I need your cooperation. I don't know dragon physiology." Saris studied her for a long moment. "If you harm him, intentionally or not, I will hold you responsible." "Understood," Rita said. "Now, can I see the patient?" They moved deeper into the cargo section. Voron looked worse than before. His breathing was shallow, and the black discoloration had spread down his shoulder toward his chest. Pip, Cray, and Foon huddled in the corner, watching with frightened eyes. Rita set down her medical bag and approached slowly. "Volin, I'm Rita. I'm going to examine your wound. Tell me if anything I do hurts worse than it already does." Voron managed a slight nod. Up close, Rita could see just how massive he was. His shoulder alone was bigger than her entire body. She took a deep breath and began her examination. "The poison is necrotizing the tissue," she confirmed. "It's spreading along what I assume are your major blood vessels. In humans, I would cut away the dead tissue and use strong antibiotics. Will that work for you?" "Dragons heal differently," Saris said. "We regenerate tissue if we have enough energy. But the poison prevents regeneration. You must remove it entirely, or it will keep spreading. All of it. Rita looked at the wound. That's at least 3 inches deep and spreading. I'll essentially be carving out a section of his shoulder. If you do not, he dies anyway. Rita nodded slowly. Okay, I'll need clean water, lots of it. And I need to know how to stop dragon bleeding if I cut too deep. Saris explained dragon blood clotting, which was faster than human, but still took time. She showed Rita the pressure points that would slow bleeding. Ben boiled water on a portable heater, sterilizing everything he could. The procedure took 2 hours. Rita cut away the poisoned tissue with steady hands while Saris guided her. Vorin never made a sound, but Ben could see the pain in his eyes. Pip cried quietly in the corner. Cray turned away, unable to watch. Foon stood frozen, his young face showing a maturity beyond his years. When Rita finally finished, Vorin's shoulder had a massive, open wound, but the black poison was gone. She packed it with antibacterial gel and bandaged it as best she could. The rest is up to his own healing, Rita said, washing blood off her hands. If dragon regeneration works like you described, he should start recovering in a few days. But he needs rest, food, and water. Lots of all 3. Saris touched Rita's shoulder gently with one claw. It was the lightest touch, barely there, but it carried meaning. Thank you, doctor. You have given my mate a chance to live. Rita managed a tired smile. Just doing my job. Well, technically I'm doing someone else's job since dragon medicine isn't my specialty, but you know what I mean. Ben walked Rita back to the entrance. Before she left, she turned to him. They're not what I expected, she said quietly. The stories make them sound like monsters, but they're just people, scared people trying to protect their family. Yeah, Ben agreed. That's what I saw too. Rita left, and Ben returned to find Saris sitting next to Vorin. The big male dragon was already sleeping, his breathing easier than before. Your doctor is brave, Saris said. She was terrified, but she helped anyway. That's what courage is, Ben said. Being scared and doing it anyway. Beep approached Ben slowly. Will my father be okay now? I think so. Rita is really good at her job. Pip did something unexpected. She pressed her small head against Ben's side, a gesture of trust and affection. Ben carefully put his hand on her scaled head. She was warm, almost hot to the touch. Cray watched from the corner, his expression still hostile. But Foon nodded at Ben, a simple acknowledgement. For the first time since the dragon family arrived, Ben felt like maybe, just maybe, this might work out. Then his comm unit buzzed. It was Administrator Lang. Carter, my office. Now, and bring your lawyer if you have one. Ben sighed. The easy part was over. Administrator Lang's office overlooked the main docking bays. Through the window, Ben could see ships coming and going, commerce continuing as usual. Inside the office, though, the atmosphere was anything but usual. Lang sat behind his desk, his Fenric features tight with anger. Next to him stood a Tralaxian merchant named Goss, dressed in expensive robes that marked him as someone with serious money. 2 security officers flanked the door. Sit, Lang said. Ben remained standing. I'd rather hear what this is about first. This is about you harboring dangerous creatures without authorization. This is about you using station resources for unauthorized purposes. This is about you potentially putting every resident of this station at risk. Lang pulled up a screen showing legal documents. The dragon family has 24 hours to leave, or they will be removed by force. They have an injured family member, Ben said. Moving him could kill him. Goss stepped forward. His smile didn't reach his eyes. Perhaps I can offer a solution. I run a sanctuary for rare and endangered species. Beautiful facility, top medical care, plenty of space. I would be happy to take the dragon family off your hands. Ben had heard of Goss. Everyone had. He was known for his exotic animal collections, though there were always rumors about what happened to the creatures he acquired. Nothing proven, just whispers. A sanctuary, Ben said slowly. How many dragons do you currently have in your care? I would rather not discuss my other clients. Privacy concerns, you understand, right? Privacy. Ben looked at Lang. You're seriously going to hand them over to him? Mr. Goss has all the proper permits and licenses. Unlike you, he's qualified to handle dangerous species. They're not dangerous. They're refugees. Lang's expression hardened. They're dragons. Carter, do you know how many planets their kind destroyed? How many millions died in the Dragon Wars? That was 1,000 years ago. These dragons weren't even alive then. Doesn't matter. The law is clear. Unregistered dragons are classified as extreme risk. They leave or they're removed. Ben felt his anger rising. So we're punishing them for things their ancestors did? Things they were forced to do because they were literally created as weapons? That seems fair to you. Goss placed a hand on Lang's shoulder. Administrator, perhaps I could speak with Mr. Carter privately? I'm sure we can reach an understanding. Lang hesitated, then nodded. 5 minutes. Security stays. Once Lang left, Goss's smile faded. Let's be honest with each other, Carter. Those dragons are worth a fortune on the black market. Scales, blood, bone marrow, all of it has value. Medical research, weapon development, luxury goods. A single adult dragon could fund my operations for a decade. You're admitting you traffic in illegal goods. I'm admitting I'm a businessman. And I'm offering you a cut if you help convince the family to come willingly. 20% of the profit. That's more money than you'll make in 10 years as a cargo loader. Ben felt sick. You're going to kill them. I'm going to harvest valuable resources from dangerous creatures. There's a difference. Goss leaned closer. Those dragons are dead either way, Carter. Either I take them and their death means something, or they flee and get hunted down by someone with less professional methods. At least with me, it will be quick. Get out. Excuse me. Get out of my sight before I do something that gets me arrested. Goss's expression turned cold. You're making a mistake. I was offering you a chance to profit. Now I'll simply take what I want. He left, and the security officers followed. Ben stood alone in the office, his hands shaking with rage. He had known there were bad people in the galaxy, but hearing someone discuss killing a family so casually made him want to break something. His comm unit buzzed. It was Saris. Ben Carter, we have a problem. Cray is missing. Ben ran. He sprinted through the station corridors, pushing past people, ignoring their shouts. When he reached the cargo section, he found Saris and Foon searching frantically. When did you notice? Ben asked. 10 minutes ago. He was angry about the time limit. He said he wouldn't let humans decide his family's fate. Saris' voice was tight with worry. He's young. He doesn't understand how many people want to hurt us. I'll find him, Ben promised. Foon, stay with your mother and Pip. Keep Vorin safe. Ben checked the security feeds on his personal tablet. It took 15 minutes of searching before he spotted Cray. The young dragon was in one of the station's observation decks, staring out at the stars. He looked small and alone. When Ben arrived, Cray didn't turn around. Go away, human. Can't do that. Your mom is worried. My mom is always worried. That's what happens when everyone wants to kill your family. Ben sat down on the floor nearby, keeping some distance. You're right to be angry. This situation is terrible, and it's not fair. Then why don't you fix it? Cray spun around, and Ben saw tears in his eyes. You helped us. You brought the doctor. Everyone says you're different. So fix this. I can't. I'm just one person. I don't have the authority to change station law. Then what good are you? Cray's voice cracked. What good is any of this if we just die anyway? Ben took a breath. My grandmother told me something when I was about your age. She said strength isn't about being big or powerful. It's about standing up when everything seems impossible. That's stupid. Size and power are what matter. That's why everyone fears us. That's why they want us dead. They don't want you dead because you're strong. They want you dead because they're scared. Fear makes people do terrible things. Ben stood up slowly. But fear can also be changed. It takes time, but it's possible. We don't have time. Then we make the time we need. Ben held out his hand. Come back with me. We'll figure this out together. Cray stared at the offered hand. You really think you can change anything? I think trying is better than giving up. For a long moment, Cray didn't move. Then, slowly, he placed his claw in Ben's hand. It was warm and rough, but the grip was gentle. They walked back together. When they reached the cargo section, Saris pulled Cray into her arms. Pip and Foon crowded around him. Even Vorin, still weak, managed to rumble something in the dragon language that sounded like relief. Ben watched the family reunite and felt something settle in his chest. He had no idea how to solve this problem. The station wanted them gone, Goss wanted them dead, and the galaxy offered no safe harbor. But watching that family hold each other, he knew he couldn't give up. His grandmother had faced impossible odds and survived because someone chose to help. Now it was his turn to be that someone that he just had to figure out how. 16 hours before the deadline, Ben sat in the cargo section with a tablet, researching every refugee law and asylum protocol he could find. Saris watched him work while her younglings slept nearby. Voran's breathing had improved, but he was still too weak to move. "You should rest," Saris said quietly. "You have been awake for 2 days. I'll rest when you're safe." "That may never happen." Ben looked up from the tablet. "Are you giving up?" "I am being realistic. We have run for 6 months. Every station, every planet, every settlement has turned us away. Some politely, some with weapons. This is just another stop on a journey that has no destination." "What about your home world? Can you go back?" Saris's expression darkened. "Our home was destroyed. The corporations wanted the minerals beneath the surface. They claimed we were squatting on valuable land. When we refused to leave, they sent hunters to remove us by force." "How many dragons were there?" 43 families. 217 individuals. Saris closed her eyes. "We're the only ones who escaped." The weight of that statement hit Ben hard. An entire population nearly wiped out, and the galaxy didn't care. Probably didn't even know. His comm unit buzzed. It was Rita. "Ben, you need to see this." "Main assembly hall. Now." Ben found the assembly hall packed with people. Every species on the station seemed to be there, including Administrator Lang, standing at the podium. Goss sat in the front row, looking smug. When Ben entered, several people pointed at him and whispered. Lang began speaking. "We are here to address the dragon situation. As administrator, I must prioritize station safety. However, Mr. Carter has raised questions about our legal obligations to refugees. Therefore, we will hear both sides before making a final decision." Ben hadn't expected this. Someone must have filed a formal complaint, forcing Lang to hold a public hearing. He spotted Rita in the crowd, and she gave him a small nod. She had done this. "Mr. Carter, you have 15 minutes to present your case," Lang said. Ben walked to the front, acutely aware of hundreds of eyes on him. He had never been good at public speaking, but this was too important to mess up. "I'm not a lawyer or a politician," he started. "I'm just a cargo loader who saw a family in trouble. Dragons have a bad history. Everyone knows the stories about the Dragon Wars. But these dragons, this family, they weren't part of those wars. They were living peacefully on their home world until corporations decided that land was worth more than their lives. They're still dangerous," someone shouted from the crowd. "So are humans," Ben shot back. "We've had wars too. We've destroyed planets, committed genocides, done terrible things. But we don't judge every human by our worst moments in history. Why do we judge dragons that way?" Murmurs spread through the crowd. Some agreeable, many not. Goss stood up. "If I may address the assembly, I think we're forgetting the practical concerns. Dragons require specialized care, massive resources, and constant supervision. My sanctuary is equipped for this. I can provide everything they need." "Your sanctuary is a prison," Ben said. "Everyone knows what you really do. You collect rare species and sell their parts on the black market." Goss's smile didn't waver. "That's a serious accusation. Do you have proof?" Ben didn't. Just rumors and suspicion. He could see the doubt in people's faces. Then someone else stood up. A cordon female, her blue skin marked with age. "I have proof." The assembly hall went silent. The cordon walked to the front and pulled up a holographic display. It showed cages, creatures in pain, harvesting equipment. The images were brutal. "I worked for Goss 5 years ago," she said. "I documented everything before I quit. He takes rare species, keeps them alive, and harvests their biological materials. He had 3 dragons once. They survived for 2 years before they died from the constant extractions." Goss tried to speak, but security was already moving toward him. Lang looked at the evidence, his face turning darker shades of gray. "This assembly is postponed," Lang announced. "Mr. Goss, you're under arrest pending investigation." As security led Goss away, he looked at Ben with pure hatred. This isn't over. There are others like me. The dragons are too valuable. Someone will claim them eventually. The assembly broke up into chaos. People arguing, some celebrating, others demanding the dragons still be removed. Ben found the Cordon woman in the crowd. "Thank you," he said. "Why did you help?" "Because I'm tired of watching powerful people hurt those who can't defend themselves. I should have spoken up years ago." She looked at Ben with respect. "You reminded me what courage looks like." Ben returned to the cargo section to find the dragon family awake and alert. Saris had heard about the assembly through the station communication network. "Goss is arrested," Ben told them. "But he's right. There will be others. As long as you're unprotected, you're targets." "Then what do we do?" Foon asked. The young dragon had been quiet throughout this ordeal, but now he stepped forward. "We can't run forever." Ben pulled up the tablet he had been researching. "I found something. Human refugee law allows citizens to sponsor asylum seekers. If I take legal responsibility for your family, you fall under human protection protocols. It's not perfect, but it's something. One human sponsoring 5 dragons." Sari shook her head. "The authorities will never allow it. They might not have a choice. Human refugee law is older than galactic law. It takes priority in legal disputes." Ben looked at each of them. "But this means you'd have to stay on the station for at least a year while the asylum process completes. You'd be watched, restricted, probably treated badly by some people. Are you willing to do that?" Vorin spoke for the first time since the surgery. His voice was weak but clear. "We are willing to try. For our younglings, we are willing to try anything." "Then I'll file the paperwork tonight." Pip ran over and hugged Ben's leg. "Does this mean we can stay? Really stay?" "It means we can try," Ben said. "But I need you all to promise me something. While you're here, while we're fighting for your asylum, you have to show everyone that dragons aren't monsters. You have to prove that you're just people trying to live." Cray bristled. "Why should we prove anything? They're the ones judging us unfairly." "Because that's how change works," Ben said. "It's not fair, but it's reality. Sometimes the people who are wronged have to work harder to be seen as equal." Saris placed a claw on Cray's shoulder. "He's right. We will do this. For our future, we will show them who we really are." Ben filed the asylum paperwork that night. By morning, it was official. The dragon family was under his protection, and the station couldn't remove them without challenging human refugee law. It wasn't a perfect solution, but it bought them time, and time, Ben was learning, was sometimes all you needed to change people's minds. 3 months passed. The dragon family's presence on Station Harmony went from crisis to curiosity to something almost normal. Not everyone accepted them, but the open hostility faded into cautious distance. Pip became a regular sight in the station gardens. The head gardener, a nervous Trell named Boda, had initially refused to let her help. But Pip's careful control of her fire breath proved useful for composting. She could heat the organic waste to exactly the right temperature, speeding up decomposition by weeks. Boda still watched her closely, but he stopped flinching every time she moved. Vorin recovered fully. His strength returned, and with it came opportunities. The station's construction supervisor hired him for heavy lifting jobs that usually required 3 workers and expensive equipment. Vorin could move cargo containers that would take hours to relocate with machinery. He was paid fairly, and he never complained about the work. Foon spent his days with Rita in the medical bay. His steady hands and careful nature made him perfect for preparing medications and organizing supplies. Some patients still refused treatment if he was in the room, but others had begun to request his assistance specifically. He had a gentle way of calming frightened children, regardless of their species. Cray was the difficult one. He studied engineering with Ben, learning about ship systems and station maintenance. He was brilliant, understanding complex systems faster than most adult engineers. But his anger hadn't fully faded. He saw every suspicious look, heard every whispered insult. Ben worried that one day Cray's temper would explode and undo all the progress they had made. Saris took on the role of cultural liaison. She taught classes about dragon history, the truth behind the wars, the way her people had been used and discarded. Some classes had only 2 or 3 attendees. Others filled entire rooms. Slowly, people began to understand that the monsters from their stories had been victims too. Ben watched all of this while continuing his work as a cargo loader. He had expected resistance, maybe even violence. What he got instead was something stranger. Respect. People who had ignored him for years now stopped to talk. Some thanked him for standing up. Others questioned his judgment, but admitted he had courage. One evening, Ben sat in the cargo section with the dragon family. It had become their routine. Dinner together, stories shared, plans made. Pip was explaining her day in the gardens when the alarm sounded. Security alert. Unknown vessel approaching. All personnel to emergency stations. Ben and the dragons rushed to the observation deck. Through the viewport, they saw a ship limping toward the station. It was smaller than the Crimson Wing had been, badly damaged, trailing atmosphere. "That's a dragon ship," Vorin said quietly. I recognized the design. Administrator Lang's voice came over the speakers. "Attention all residents. We have a dragon family requesting emergency docking. Under the asylum protocols established 3 months ago, we are obligated to provide assistance. However, I am asking for volunteers to help with their arrival. If you are willing, report to Docking Bay 12. Ben headed for the bay immediately. When he arrived, he found Rita already there. Then Boda appeared, looking nervous but determined. The Cordon woman who had exposed Goss came next. Then more people. Humans, Trells, Fenrix, even a few Cordons. Within 20 minutes, over 30 volunteers had gathered. Lang looked genuinely surprised. "Well then, let's make them welcome." The dragon family that emerged from the damaged ship was in worse shape than Sari's family had been. 2 adults and 4 younglings, all injured, all terrified. The mother dragon collapsed as soon as she reached solid ground. Rita immediately began triage while Vorin and Saris spoke to the new family in the dragon language. Pip brought water. Cray helped Boda organize temporary shelter. Foon assisted Rita with medical supplies. Ben watched the volunteers work together. Species that had feared dragons 3 months ago now worked to save them. It wasn't perfect. Some people still kept their distance. But enough had changed their minds to make a difference. The new dragon mother's name was Nella. When she was stable enough to speak, she looked at the crowd of helpers with confusion. "Why are you helping us?" "We are dragons." Saris answered before anyone else could. "Because they have learned what we learned long ago. Species doesn't determine worth. Actions do." Over the next few weeks, more dragons arrived. Word had spread through the hidden dragon networks that Station Harmony offered asylum. Lang complained about resources, but he never turned anyone away. The station expanded, adding new sections specifically designed for dragon families. Ben's small act of opening a docking bay door had started something bigger than he had imagined. Other stations began adopting similar asylum policies. Corporations that had funded dragon hunting faced public pressure to stop. It wasn't a revolution, just a slow shift in perspective. But slow change was still change. 6 months after the dragon family's arrival, Ben received an official notice. The Asylum Review Board had made their decision. He walked to the cargo section, which the dragons still called home despite having access to larger quarters. The entire family waited. Even the younglings were quiet, sensing the importance of the moment. "Well," Saris asked. Ben read the notice aloud. "Asylum granted. Full citizenship status approved. The dragon family of Saris and Vorin are officially recognized as permanent residents of Station Harmony, with all rights and protections therein." Pip shrieked with joy and nearly knocked Ben over with an enthusiastic hug. Cray actually smiled, a rare sight. Foon quietly wiped away tears. Vorin and Saris embraced, their relief palpable. "There's more," Ben said. "The board is offering you a choice. You can stay here, or you can relocate to any human colony that accepts asylum seekers. You have options now." Saris looked around the cargo section, then at her family, then at Ben. "We choose to stay. This is our home now. These people saw us when we were nothing but scared refugees and chose to help. We will not abandon them." Ben felt his throat tighten with emotion. "I am glad. I would have missed you. You are our family too." "Ben Carter," Saris said. "In dragon culture, We have a concept called the heart bond. It is formed when someone risks everything to protect our family with no expectation of reward. You formed that bond the day you opened the docking bay door. She touched his chest gently with one claw. Ben felt warmth spread from the point of contact, not painful, but profound. Something shifted in his awareness. He could feel their emotions, all of them. Pip's joy, Kray's grudging affection, Foon's quiet love, Voran's respect, Sari's deep gratitude. "What is this?" he whispered. "The bond. You are part of our family now. Forever." Pip tugged on his sleeve. "Does this mean you're our brother?" Ben laughed, tears running down his face. "I guess it does." Later that evening, Ben stood at the observation deck watching new ships arrive. More refugees, more families seeking sanctuary. The station would need more volunteers, more resources, more people willing to step forward. But Ben wasn't worried. He had learned something important over the past 6 months. When someone steps forward, others follow. Courage spreads like fire, warming everyone it touches. That a new dragon ship appeared on the sensors. Without hesitation, Ben headed for the docking bay. He had a door to open. Behind him, his dragon family followed, ready to welcome more refugees home.